Hey family, thank you for following and trusting the path that led you here. This is Flow Space, Conscious Conversations with J&D. I'm Jerica.
And I'm Deandra. Our discussions will be led by intuition and spirit as we continue to evolve and learn about what it means to live an earthly human experience. What did God put on your heart today, my sis?
Okay, so the concept that came forward is the way that we create problems for ourselves, even when life is smooth and all we have to do is flow. We come up with all sorts of things to occupy our mind, and that takes us out of the flow. And as I was cleaning earlier and I was thinking about this, I'm like, wow, even myself, I see how I do this. I see how others around me do it. And I started asking, like, why? As humans, why do we do this? So what I felt like strongly that came forward is that we do it as a way of a coping mechanism, because sometimes the dysfunction or the chaos feels safer for us, or we feel more comfortable in it because we then create these problems that we can fix. And as we're fixing them, it makes us feel successful. And it makes us feel in control, and it makes us feel like a bunch of different things, like gratification, instant gratification, because if I create this problem and then I can create a solution for it, even though the problem didn't exist and it wasn't real, I just accomplished something by solving this problem. So that was the message.
Yeah, it was really timely. It's amazing how that works, the timing of everything. Because when I came today to meet you, I'm like, oh, I have this list of things I have to accomplish today. Ridiculous things like drink water, drink tea, yoni steam. And then you're here telling me, like, why would you have something like yoni steaming on your list? Something so sacred and, like, personal and, like, spiritual. I'm like, yeah, why do I? And it was helping me arrive, because on my drive here, I was recognizing how ridiculous this list was and how not in alignment it is towards living a peaceful life internally and feeling centered.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more we talked about it, and you were asking me, where do you feel the root of this is? Like, this is a neurotic behavior, trying to control something in your life, and you are resorting to controlling it through controlling what you can control. That has nothing to do with the root.
Like the actuality, like what you need to put your energy and focus on, you're occupying that by doing these minor things that really don't need your energy. And to go into like the example of the list, because it's something that I feel is so applicable. There's times that I make myself a list. But I think I asked you joking, I was like, oh, do you have pray on your list? And you were like, I have meditate. And it was like, okay, like that's such a good way to see the extremes, because if you're living a life of devotion or mindful, you incorporate these ways of being throughout your day. It would be like if you had to breathe on your list, and it's like something, drinking water, that's so...
It's a necessity.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be tasked, but it just gives you that satisfaction, like, okay, I drank water today, I'm doing good. And maybe like sometimes we do need these like self-motivation or self-praise through these ways, but I feel like if we can get to the root of what we actually are trying to accomplish, and we can put our energy towards that, it'll be more beneficial, and it'll allow us to achieve our goal a little bit quicker, maybe, because we're not occupying the mind with nonsense.
Yeah, more seamless. Because as I was reflecting on what the root of this is, what is it that I'm actually trying to control, I recognize that like one of my goals this year is becoming debt free. And every day I look at my calendar saying, okay, on this day I'm going to be able to pay this off, and on this day. And looking at my calendar every day doesn't speed up the days to arrive to the day where I get to pay X whatever off.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to cope with that waiting time frame between days, I've resulted towards creating these lists of things that I can accomplish that feel within my control.
Yeah.
And I recognize how it was a self-induced problem, because I have never felt more in control, in the sense of in flow and on purpose with achieving this goal of becoming debt free, than ever before. Like, it feels attainable, and yet I'm holding on to it, and I'm recognizing how it can be associated with an old pattern of when I felt like out of control or unattainable. Like, I can release that, I can surrender and let that go,
Yeah.
and just allow it to unfold without me hyper fixating on like the time frame of, okay, in 3 days I'll be able to do this. Like, just enjoy my life, and 3 days will come, and then I'll do it then.
Mm-hmm. And there's a saying, I don't know where it originates, but the saying goes something loosely like a watch tea kettle doesn't ring or like doesn't steam. And if you ever notice that when you're hyper fixating or hyper focusing on something, it almost feels like time slows down, because this desire of yours is so present that it's taking you out of the actual present moment, and you're not rushing the process by watching it. So if you put a what do you call it, a tea kettle on the stove to burn, like to boil, and you go start doing other things, in the blink of an eye it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens to me sometimes. I'm like, okay, come on, like I want to drink my tea, boil already, and it takes forever. But if I just put it and I leave it and I let it do its thing, it happens so seamlessly and smoothly, and it doesn't give me that internal pressure that I create just from observing it. So like what you mentioned about looking at your calendar every day, it's like it's really good to find the balance between having our goals and taking the actions necessary, but not stepping into that hyperfixating, because then it just creates unnecessary pressure and like forcefulness and things that that do not make us feel good.
Yeah, it's so unhealthy. After our accomplishment yesterday of recording our first episode for this new season, I felt so centered, still, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up today and it's like I was in search of something I had to solve. Like, I couldn't just be in the peace and the flow that's present in my life and that's continuously unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
I had to disrupt that for some reason, and it's making me realize that maybe I just need to allow and welcome in the present moment for what it is, and reap the fruits of my labor, and let that be okay, instead of continuing to kind of be on this like survival mode in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it's time to just let that go entirely, although it's not hyper present in ways that it once was, but it's something that lives in my mind that manifests in something so ridiculous, like this list to drink water. you know, something so close to literally putting, like you said, like put breathing on your list.
Yeah.
So it's making me recognize the depths and of the patterns that have perpetuated in my life for so long, and how they can linger even though like the pattern has, for the most part, eradicated itself out of my life. There's layers to it.
Of course, because how long have we as a society lived in this way? Mm-hmm. And, you know, like, it just shows us that, I think in our last episode we mentioned this, the teachings, you don't learn something and then it's implemented and integrated fully immediately. Yeah. It's going to take that time. And it makes me think of, like, so many examples when people can live a peaceful life. And that doesn't mean that problems are not going to arise or challenges that you need to figure out solutions to. It just means that in whatever scenario that comes up, you're equipped and you're empowered to make choices that are going to aid you without creating unnecessary drama or unnecessary struggle. So I think of somebody in my life who was sharing something with me. And this was shared with me earlier today, and maybe that's why the message came onto my heart after, where they had a plan in place to do something, and everything in their life is going good for them right now. And when I say going good, it's like they're not struggling. Now, because of that foreign feeling of things feeling good, and it can almost appear to be boring, life isn't exciting in a way that there's like drama and problems. I realized that as they're telling me their decision to change something that they already agreed to, it's a way to create a problem and create something to start focusing on and something to fix, even though there's nothing to fix. And I was like, wow, like, why is this happening? You know, like, why is this person so addicted to the drama where they're gonna start, like, hurting people with these decisions that they're making and ultimately hurt themselves? Because if you hurt people you care about, that feeling is gonna impact you. Mm-hmm. And I shared as much as I could without, like, trying to overstep and, like, give them what I feel is the best answer, because, you know, everybody's journey, you have to go through it. And I left it at that. But it weighed on me, because I'm like, wow, like, I recognize this pattern not only within my family but friends. It's insane that we do this to ourselves. It's like, why do we want to suffer in any capacity? Yeah. And I feel like when we embark on this journey of evolution or a spiritual path, it's really important to recognize, like you were saying, the different layers and depths that these patterns go. Because yeah, like, we might feel enlightened in one moment because we read a book, or because in a meditation we got this vision or this message and we feel untouchable. But it's like, we can never get too ahead of ourselves and think and be so foolish to think like we figured it out, because there's always more and more.
Yeah, moment to moment, the practice is always being implemented and being asked of us to show up with all of these enlightenments and teachings.
Yeah.
It's really forever. And it just makes me recognize and have more compassion to those around me when I'm able to recognize how this pattern that I'm realizing within myself, how it's showing up, seeing it in others, and just being able to just be like a peaceful presence for someone who's navigating that as I'm navigating it within myself, and have that exchange, like, through my own peaceful presence, helping another, as you helped me earlier today. And yeah, that's really what I'm arriving to. Like, the awareness is always unfolding within ourselves, and that helps us ultimately, and then helps other people. Like, it's just all a collective effort ultimately.
Yeah, and I feel like what you just said is important, because we have to show up for ourselves with that grace and compassion. And that's why I feel like what I shared about, like, never becoming so foolish to think that we figured it out, that aids with the grace and compassion for the self. And it also helps us recognize in the moment, because I feel like, you know, you would have arrived to your conclusion, but if we didn't speak about the list, that's something I personally have experience with. I don't remember when. I know we've spoken about it on episodes, but I dealt with controlling things just because I didn't have something figured out in life, and that was my outlet. And I was like, oh, like, I recognize, and that's what prompted me to, like, keep giving you questions, like, where do you think this happened, like, started, what were you doing when you created this list this morning? And different questions, like, I was able to ask you that because those were the self-reflected questions I sat with myself some time ago. And it's like, yeah, we can walk each other to the remembrance that we know, but we have to do it from, like, that loving space. And as much grace as I give somebody else, I have to first give myself.
Yeah, and yes, you said that so beautifully, because throughout me expressing this aspect of myself that was unfolding in front of me today,
yeah,
I was able to laugh through it. Like, I wasn't stuck in, like, a victim mindset or, like, feeling shame or whatever. I had grace for myself, and I can find the humor amidst recognizing that something is out of balance with how I'm behaving. And that's what allowed me to be like, I know this is something that you've helped yourself through, so, like, how can you help me, you know, through sharing your own experience and the medicine that you received through your own grace that you offered yourself, that you can then share forward. And I love that. Like, I strive to show up in any setting that I'm in to offer that to others. And it's so nourishing to my spirit, because it feels like a soul hug to other people that I'm giving them, and they're giving to me, and then we can, like, be in that dance together. And I'm just really appreciative of that, because the conversation we had prior to recording right now quickened my process of arriving to where I would have ultimately arrived. And that is the greatness that comes with community support and showing up with love for ourselves and for those around us.
Mm-hmm. And something else that's coming to mind is the concept of when the patterns keep repeating themselves. Because just for this specific example with the list has been something, I think earlier I said, like, at least 2 months now, I know that we've been speaking about why have a list and stuff like that. So it's going to show, like you just said, you would have arrived to the conclusion. And it's not to ever speed up, like, your process or anything like that, but if you really sit with yourself presently and you start realizing, okay, this is coming up. Why was this a conversation today? It's a conversation again the next day. It's another conversation. Okay, I've had this conversation with somebody about a list 10 times now. Like, what's the message here? Instead of, like, bypassing it or coming up with justifications, you can ultimately aid yourself in arriving to what message is there for you.
Yeah, not being in your own way, because that is so relevant. Because there's been many times after we have the conversation about the list, I go ahead and still make a list.
I know. Like, even when we're talking about the list, you're like, I'm going to add that to the list. I'm like, what?
It's so crazy. It just speaks to how deep it goes, you know? And it's true. It really does come with that self-reflection and that willingness to be aware of our own behaviors and the perpetuating cycles that manifest through those repeating patterns, and choose differently for ourselves.
If you want to, ultimately, you know, because if you don't want to, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you do want to see differences in your life based on things that you know don't make you feel the best, it's like, yeah, you have the opportunity to change.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference, though. Like, just speaking on our own experiences, when we recognize patterns, we strive to see what it is that they're showing us and then make a change for our benefit. And that's the difference between having, like, routines or, like, practices that make us feel good, and then having these basically unconscious routines, like these patterns that continue to manifest until we create the awareness and the desire to change and see what they have for us. For, you know, those who are interested in evolving or just going deeper with themselves and recognizing how they're showing up, and what is supportive to the evolution of themselves and what isn't.
Yeah, and I feel like something, because as you were saying that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a routine. Like, it can look so differently. It can be a coping mechanism. You know, like, if you reflect with yourself, what in my life right now do I do either in excess, or do I do that gives me a dopamine boost, or do I do that makes me feel in control? You know, like, certain things like that. Is it overeating? Is it, you know, like, whatever it can be. Is it making a list? Is it just staying asleep all day because that feels better than dealing with reality? There's so many different ways this can show up, but again, it's like, once you're ready to be honest with yourself, and once you've almost become fed up enough that you want to see change, you'll be able to start asking these questions.
Yeah.
And I feel like it'll be a great time now to mention our questions. Every episode that we record, we include journal prompts and affirmations in our show notes, so be sure to look out for them and practice them if you choose to integrate and go deeper with the messages of the episode.
Yes, to the power of self-inquiry. Oh, it's so beautifully timed with this whole conversation, because it really goes hand in hand, and it really helps us be always in alignment in a way that is very fluid and in harmony and balanced, instead of straying the path to discover something that could have been easily understood or understood through being in self-inquiry and reflection with oneself all the time.
Yeah, but this is life. Like, we're here on Earth, we're humans, we're meant to experience, we're meant to learn in different ways, so
yeah, teach their own, and we'll get there when we get there.
Right. And if not now, maybe the next, you know, like, who knows? But it's always fine. And that also isn't to be said with, like, an enabling tone. Because it's like, hold yourself accountable and do your best. I think that's what it is, actually. It's to try and strive to do our best in every moment, so that, one, our best baseline increases, but also we know that we're giving ourselves what we deserve in moment to moment.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I love it. It's fine. It's always fine. Like, I think that's so important, because there's times where we do our best, or what we feel is us showing up as our best in that moment with the capacity that we have, and yet the solution or the result that we desire isn't brought forward, that's a moment where it's to affirm to ourselves that it truly is fine. Like, we did our best, we showed up the best we could, and recognizing that however it manifested, the solution is for the best case scenario.
Yeah, it reminds me of the saying, you think you have a plan and God laughs, and it's like that can be applied in that moment. But if I know I put my best foot forward and I did all that was within my capacity, there's no reason for me to then feel bad or bring upon shame or guilt on myself. I can just keep flowing forward with an open heart and an open mind for whatever is meant for me to be received.
Yeah, it's a fine line, though.
It is.
You know, because you can convince yourself that what you're doing is best, even though you truly know, like, deeper within.
But then you know that you're not.
But maybe
that's
you don't have
the honesty.
Awareness. Yeah.
I think that's... Yeah, because if you don't have the awareness, that's one thing. But if you truly know, like what you just said, like you deep inside know, then you're not being honest with yourself. And you're just putting yourself through a ringer.
Wow. The journey to self-honesty, I feel, goes hand in hand with the self-inquiry and being in a reflective state and allowing for that space so that we can learn through this earth school.
Yeah, you learn as much as you allow yourself to through honesty.
That's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous because of like the accountability that comes with, like, you have to take responsibility for your life. If if one chooses to eradicate patterns and be honest and recognize things for what they are and see how it is that we are contributing to the outcomes that we're experiencing in our lives. And that's what I feel can be so ridiculous when you don't want to deal.
Yeah, I can even hear it in your tone.
Yeah.
Like your tone just got different.
Yeah.
So tell me how you really feel.
No, like, I'm arriving, I'm willing to rise to the occasion, but that's not to say that there is resistance that surfaces, because I am most definitely human as well, and it's just part of it. And I think it's good to share that, because we are not on no pedestal, we are not more woke than the next person. We're on this journey just like every other person is. And that's literally what we're here to do, is just share our journey. And part of that is sometimes like, oh my God, I don't want to deal.
Yeah.
And
but
then
it's keeping it real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually we arrive, like I am today with my list. I'm here to say, I'm not gonna make a list. But I feel like, when do you need a list? Is there ever a need for a list?
Okay, so I think that's a great question, because it's bringing forward the balance in your life. And it's like, yeah, you can have a list, because if you have certain things like tasks that are to do, you don't want to keep them occupying space in your mind that can be used for other things. So if you need to create a list for that, sure, so that you don't forget something. But to use your example, drink water, make tea, yoni steam. I don't know what else is on your list, but like those three
things.
like those three things don't have to be on your list. Those are natural things that you do in your day-to-day.
Right.
So I hope that like can give the example, because there is a time and a place for it, but it's just like what actually needs to be there. What actually can be on your list that you can accomplish, that'll be a feel-good accomplishment, not something that's, I don't want to say not needed, because drinking water is needed, but is it needed to be on a list?
Right, it goes without saying.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, though, first I'm going to start with not making any lists, just to balance out the extremes, because I've been a list creator, and it's been part of my lifestyle. So now I think I'm just going to go without the list, and then just like trust the flow, because truly I don't feel like, reflecting back now, there's rarely times where I truly need a list.
Yeah.
So I'm going to recognize that and then see where that leads me to.
And sometimes this isn't like me saying what you should do or not do, but it's like sometimes we don't need to swing the pendulum to the complete other side and become out of balance that way, and then like create more chaos for ourselves. We can just do what feels good moment to moment. So it's like, if this moment you need the list and that's how you're gonna like help yourself get over that feeling of control, okay, go ahead. Just recognize what you're putting on it. If today you don't need the list and you want to free yourself from that, good for you, you know? But you don't have to like go from one extreme to another, because I feel like that ultimately, even if it's in the attempt of getting back to center balance, it's still prolonging your out of balanceness.
Period. Moment to moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be this all or nothing.
Right.
Go all in or do nothing at all. It doesn't have to be like that.
No.
I love it.
And it's getting comfortable in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also part of the message that was on my heart today, about like us creating chaos because it's something that we feel comfortable or safe in, because it's all we've known for so long. And that's part of it. Like, if we've been if we've been unbalanced for so long, we want to keep ourselves there because it's what we feel safe and good in. But it's no, like, we can learn to feel safe in peace. We can learn to feel safe when balanced.
Amazing. I love it. It reminds me of many times where I've created a list because I felt like I had nothing to do in the day, and I'm like, wait, no, I do have things to do. And then I make a list. And it's like, girl, if you don't got nothing to do, that's a beautiful thing. Enjoy the peace. Like, just enjoy your day. Wow. Yes. Beautiful. I'm really grateful for this combo.
I'm glad. Me too.
Hopefully you received from this or enjoyed us having a conscious conversation. If you really loved it and would love to share it with someone, please do. Or leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, check it out. We have a new studio.
Yes, and if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, please be sure to like and rate our show.
Yeah, rate and review.
Rate and review.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can't like on.
Yeah. You can like on Instagram if you like our content.
Just do whatever you can to help us, please.
Yeah. You know, support the vibes. That's it.
Okay, until next time.
Yeah. Peace. It's so ridiculous, the list. Thank you for listening. Continue flowing in your own space by simply being.
If this resonated with you and you feel called, please be sure to follow us, like, and share. Until next time, wherever you go,
give yourself space to flow.
Peace out, family. If you would like to support us, you can check out our affiliates mentioned in our show notes or on our website at flowspacewellness.com, and go to our affiliates page. We have affiliates with Greenfield Water Solution, which brings life back into your water, with Lil's Basement, which are handcrafted polymer clay jewelry, incense holders, and cute creations for your body and home. Baja Gold Salt Company, which we love to cook with their sea salt. Oko Living, which are 100% organic cotton, herbal dyed, ethically sourced and made beautiful yoga mats. Life-Changing Energy, which supplies sound healing instruments such as crystal singing bowls, singing pyramids, and tuning forks. You can also support us by leaving us a love donation, any comments on our social media pages or our YouTube, and also sharing our podcast with your friends, family, coworkers, and anybody you feel would benefit from our message. Thank you so much for joining, tuning in, and listening to us and sharing this space, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future.